That's. I think the reason I picked it was because I wanted to record or clip. I wanted to use this for recording or clipping. Yeah. It's like, we don't have to record or clip right now. I'm just farming and shit. LOL. I want my breakfast. Well, it's wrong with dinner. LOL. Oh, that's me. I just did it. So, and he's not here today. Oh, still not sure when he is here. Log out. I don't need that. I need a free character. Wait, why is there a free character transfer? Is Grobulus not like open anymore? Oh no, expired. That's lame. Really lame. Okay. Oh no, it hasn't. When is it reset? Well, then there's no particular reason for me to do that. Okay. Nobody's online. Wow. Wow. Okay. What's the wait time on that? 3 minutes? Not bad. Okay. Where am I on? Smelting. It's maxed out. Okay. Engineering. I like this guide a lot. This is a great freaking guide. No point in looking at the MoP version of this yet. Okay, so I am at 200, 205. We will make 20 unstable triggers. I feel like I've done that already.
Yeah, what do you want?
I don't think any of these are that. I really need to do some of that. Mithril bars, Magi wave, and solid blasting powder. Solid choices, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
8:05 a.m. I cleared my throat and grabbed the microphone.
Good morning and welcome
How many do I
to
need?
Charlie's,
20.
your local family department store. Today we have a sale on chopped liver. Go ask Gary
I need
over at the deli all
mithril
about it.
bars.
I look over in the direction of the deli.
Shut
to
up,
see
wait.
Gary violently chopping up said liver. I don't really know where he got it though. He just told me to add it to the morning announcements.
We've also updated our
Okay.
holiday section,
How
so
much
all
were that?
customers can find whatever they might want or need for Father's Day.
1-to-1.
To all customers currently shopping with us.
Stop it. No, I'm not
And
ready.
see our only customer, if he can even still be considered a customer, because he doesn't look like he has much life left in him. Did he just pull the skin on his feet up like socks?
We're sorry to inform you that our restrooms are currently out of order until further notice.
That's
Yeah, fuck.
what came in
I
this
was
morning.
I wasn't
Both
ready.
The men's and the women's restroom were covered in blood. When I say covered, I mean floor to ceiling, drenched and dripping.
I need to change that talent. I don't use this.
Idea how. It always happens during the closing hours. The camera always glitches when it happens.
Shut
And
the
no one
fuck up.
knows
That's enough reason alone to sacrifice him.
Have a nice day, and thank you for shopping in Charlie's department.
I finished the work announcement today and let go of the microphone. As I see William speed walking into the front doors. He has a look of terror on his face and he's breathing heavy. It must be out of its cage. I ask him.
Yep.
He slams his
I have no
mask
idea what's
back
going
down,
on in
and I
this
can see
video
rips
because
and
I'm
tears in it.
Yeah.
not
and
giving it due
apparently
attention.
It only finds me tasty for some stupid
It's a
reason.
pretty good one.
He
It's a
says,
pretty good voice.
clearly frustrated that our
What are we doing, guys?
Less fortunate meets
You're
less
distracting me.
when you get it back in its cage before we get rushed. Dave's face contorts into one of disgust at this comment, but I'm not sure if it's a mean discussing Gary's mysteries in selection, or us getting busy. Or maybe it's like a thought though munching on his flesh, who knows? I tell Gabe to begin setting up his register space.
Why
while I
is he
go over
chilling
to
with
talk to
them?
Gary. When I walk over, I see Gary chopping up some
Oh,
very
shit.
disgusting gray meat. Hey, Gary. You know the owners don't like when you try to sell custom past its expiration date. I softly remind him. Gary was usually a total sweetheart to all our workers, but it still wasn't the best idea to make him mad. He grunted, then said, Gary, he slammed his butcher's knife down on the counter.
I'm sorry, I'm not
completely
giving you your due. I'm just not really listening. And I feel like I should. Because I do like your stories. I have some concerns. But anyway. This boss is a little... He gets... I think we kill him too fast sometimes. I'm fucking up with that. Okay, cool. No problem there this time. Perfect. Okay, what do I want to listen to? I don't want to listen to that, actually. I don't know. I don't know.
This episode was brought
Let's
to you
go with
by
that for now.
paid
I
sponsorship
fucking love
of the awesome
D&D.
Kickstarter Humblewood.net. When I was still getting to know the system, I rolled up a Dexy Draconic Sorcerer. That whole strategy used mobility spells to bounce around.
Dex Sorcerer?
Feather falling into combat, my Blade Ward ready. I wanted to make a single class Gish, and I thought a Sorcerer was the key. When I was looking into the archetype, though, I stumbled across an interesting cantrip. Welcome to this animated spell. True Strike. Basically, True Strike lets you call out a creature and use magic to do weaknesses in their defenses,
It's...
in their armor.
That's
It's
not
kind
my
of that
fault.
thing in anime where they're like,
It's other than it technically being my fault. Okay, that's not my fault.
And so we went to go and claim our new base, Generations of And as soon as we got inside, we could feel that something was amiss. Giant scorpones. Well, regular-sized scorpions.
When did
it
that
was
roll
our
even
first
come
fight,
up?
And it was time to strut our stuff, show
Oh,
off our
hey, look at
abilities.
that.
I raised my hand and I pointed at one of the scorpions who was
I don't think I've ever been able to do that before.
True Strike. Time to die, Scorpone. And I knew his every move before he made it. The fighter split one of them
True
in
Strike.
half.
Okay.
Cleric smashed another to bits with his hammer. The warlock whiffed an eldritch blast into a dusty couch. It was nearly time for my turn. I was ready.
Shit,
I start
fuck.
to dodge. He leans back
Oh,
to the right.
okay.
That would be my
Oh my
place to
God.
strike. And it was time. Tiger style. Oh, no. And right through the air, its engorged venom bulb glistening in the desert sun. And as it pierced me, it rolled a critical success.
Yeah.
Piercing hemorrhage plus
My highest hit so far.
any poison. At which point,
Oh, really?
I think 30%
Petty.
of my blood supply was replaced by venom. And of course, I lost concentration. And the final scorpion finished the job with a modest stab, 3 damage, and I was unconscious. At first I tried to blame bad luck, and I started thinking about it. Strike is one of the cantrips, an important feature. It gives you advantage on your next round against a specific creature. Sounds cool, but it's concentration and only for 1 round. So
Oh,
if
2
you
more
get hit
bosses.
hard and
Wow,
lose
okay.
concentration, have to switch targets. Your target gets killed or leaves range, or you cast any spells. Basically, if anything happens except what you expect to happen, you waste a round. And for what exactly? To roll 2d20s and take
I'm a
the highest
conscript,
roll.
so that doesn't do any good.
Couldn't you just attack twice in 2 rounds? Rolling 2d20s
Cares about cheating
twice
points.
potential damage output? And with that realization, unconscious, I did a test roll. Just to see if I would have hit the scorpion that had replaced 20% of my blood with poison on my first roll. Oh, and look at that, an 18. I could have killed him, but instead I wasted a turn fantasizing about hitting him, and I got wrecked. True.
How did I
strength is
level?
bad. There are builds, I'm sure, rogues, etc., where maybe it helps. But if you aren't getting sneak attacks or planning some grand assassination, just pick up Fireball. Most people can't kill someone in a single hit anyway.
Thanks for watching this episode brought to you by the Humblewood Kickstarter. Humblewood's a campaign setting an adventure for 5 E. It's got a whole new set of bird races, monsters, and incredible art, all from the awesome people over at deckofany.com. Link in the description and hopefully on screen right now.
The cooldown at 2 minutes. Oh my god, leave me alone.
This video brought to you by a paid sponsorship for Fablemaker's animated tarot deck.
Grognard. In French, Grognard or Rognel means grumbler. And that's sometimes correct. There's definitely a lot of those roleplays for a single goblin and then with a copper kind of lie. People use it to describe and sometimes self-identified sort of older or risen player who's been in love with the hobby since the beginning. It's sometimes used as a pejorative because but why French? To understand Grognard, you have to understand tabletop role-playing as we think of it now emerged from war games. And remember, in the 60s, wargaming wasn't this. It was this. While a lot of wargamers were using miniatures and rule sets to create single historical battles back then, in the 20s,
Yeah, Mecca was talking
there was
about.
one group of players who took it a little further. They were history buffs and simulationists. One of the players gave Arneson in which historical battles.
Break yourselves upon my
Okay.
body.
Not worried, not worried.
The strength
At later
of the
games,
earth.
both in the form of new battles and new stories. The players commanding armies from different countries would compose letters in the voice of important political figures, promising to fuse royal weddings, begging other players for aid in future conflicts and the like. They would send spies into town. They would feed their troops. They would describe.
What are we doing,
They had a
guys?
referee who would take all of these peripheral elements into account, simulating the fog of war, the uncertainty created by narrative outside the stat blocks, and preside over dice rolls accordingly. And this is important. At the time, they assumed that a lot of people played board games. The whole thing, the whole concept of decisions, basically a game with improv, originates in their interpretation, not even necessarily the general interpretation of the dusty pages of Strategos, a war from 18
The
fucking
world will be
on a section
reborn
concerning
in
how
Oh,
a
shit.
flames.
Fuck.
that says, quote, it's barely
I'm fucking this up so bad. Stop fucking it up. Stop fucking it up.
They took it and adapted it to simulate a different era. Instead of Strategos, one of Arneson's friends, David Wes, created Strategos N, an adaptation of Strategos to play Napoleonic Wars. You think
For
you're
my
ahead of me,
death,
and you're not,
countless
because there's
more
fucking
will
way more to it.
fall. The burden
Now, I'm
is
not going to get
now
into the Gygax
yours
versus Arneson thing. We don't need
bear.
to do this. They both
Yeah, there we go.
contributed, and I think a lot of other people.
Oh man, this is gonna take
Massive
so
amounts.
fucking much.
David
A
Wesley,
need roll.
Leonard Pat, even though he doesn't seem to remember it, and many, many more. But let me be clear, role-playing's primordial soup, the old days of the hobby, even when TTRPGs were new, was Napoleonic wargames. The Immortals, Napoleon's most valued soldiers, were still active veterans, afforded a rare privilege because they were so formidable. They were allowed to complain without any fear of being punished. This earned them the nickname, some say coined by Napoleon himself. It's a better story, so why not? Napoleon nicknamed them Les Grognards, the Grumblers.
Huh?
So when a member of our old guard dreams of lost
Yeah?
troops,
What do you
of
want?
red figurines, of a time that most people don't remember anymore, or when they complain about a session 0, we call them grognards. My hope for this video is that it's a good starting point to find out more about this sort of stuff, not somebody's resource, right? So check out Secrets of Blackmore, and please, in the comments, recommend good resources for people to find more out about the hobby's history. Oh, and before we get to the sponsor, in a truly ancient forum post referencing a website, which is a dead link now, Jim Dunnigan, an editor for SPI, credits John Young as being first at coining the term to reference wargamers in the early 1970s. So it probably didn't start with RPG origins, right? This is the equivalent of a guy on the internet told me. But it makes sense. Thanks for watching this episode, brought to you by a paid sponsorship for Hit Point Press's Fable Makers Animated Terror.
Alexa,
It's a
set
fully
alarm
animated
for
terror deck that lets
2:30.
you bring your worlds and characters to life in new ways. For a limited time, save $10 on orders over $50 with the code ZTerror.
Yeah, that's
Check it
right.
out at animatedterror.com. Links in the description below.
Wow. That is it there. I didn't realize. Okay.
Brought to you by Hit Point Press's massive Tarrasque sale. I have been seeing many comments about how you don't want a cake RPG and that Gronster does not slake your dark thirst. But you decide.
And then I need to make. Oh, wow.
Dungeons
40 of
and
those? I
Dragons
don't think I can
video.
make 40 of those. I'm going to be at. Like
There is a
220.
passage in a
for them.
forbidden chapter of a forbidden book. A book so feared that they did not give it a name, simply calling it 20 and 24.
You should have been more specific. All right, so in 5e, there was a... Okay, well, this is kind of worth talking about anyways. If you play 5e and you cast a spell using a bonus action, a spell of any kind, even a cantrip, the only other kind of spell
Wait, what
you
did they
can
want me to
cast
make?
the rest of your turn is a
Yeah.
cantrip with a casting time of
Big
1
iron
action,
bomb.
which left this weird loophole where the easiest
Oh
way
my
to cast
God.
multiple
I have to
level
craft- I don't
spells
have to
in one
craft
turn
them.
is
I
to
ain't
take
got
a dip
it.
into
You
fighter
don't want it.
or be a
Who's that? Oh,
surprisingly,
you want
Magic
to pay
Item
40
provides a
gold
lot
for
of
that? You
magic
fucking
missiles,
crazy,
so
bro.
Goblin products
cast any
for
spell as a bonus action
blank.
and tried to use the wand to cast your spell on your action, it wouldn't work. Because items like the wand specifically allow you to cast spells and thus follow
Yeah,
spell
there's
casting
no
rules.
fucking way that makes
I
any
got
sense.
a
Okay.
deal for you.
Magic missile. A cantrip with a casting time of 1 action. Correct. Tell him what he's won.
Nothing.
What? That also
Costs
means
that
that you
much?
probably use
I
meta
feel like you
magic
just
on
got
your
ripped
magic
off.
missile on magic missiles. So it's give and take. Wait. Oh yeah.
In the Forbidden Player's Manual,
They changed that to a much less confusing. You can only cast a spell using a spell slot once on your turn. This closes the fighter loophole. It's simpler, great. I mean, terrible, bad. We all hate it. Because it
Exploding
also
sheep.
further nerfs counter spells.
Do I have
Another
those? I don't
part of
know.
the game
I need
that
those,
we
though.
Historically have never complained
I'm not
about.
paying that.
If you cast a spell on your turn, it's
Fuck,
arguable
okay,
that you
I will
can't counter
buy
counterspell because
that.
counterspell also uses a spell slot. Unless you used a magic item to cast the spell. Magic items are a lot easier to get now, especially
Jesus,
creating.
this stuff is
With
really
two
getting
enormous
expensive.
exceptions, magic item creation in 2024 is the same as it was before. You need the tools you'd need to make the item if it weren't magic, and you need to know how to use it, as well as time and exotic supplies. The amount of time and the cost of those supplies is determined by the rarity of the item that you're trying to
spit it
create.
out.
But
I
this is where
don't-
things get
I have one.
I was
Fuck,
just looking for a
okay.
goofy way to
Iron
get around
grenades.
the spell slot action economy
I'm
thing
just gonna
and
sell
stumbled
those.
into what I think is one of the biggest balance changes of 2024. They didn't include complications or exotic ingredient fetch quests in item creation. This is a huge change. In Zan's, you'd have to go to some cave and cut off 37 knoll ears and bring them back, and then as you're working on your knoll ear covered wand, a patent troll tries to sue you because he's the one who invented the knoll ear wand. But in this book, you simply go shopping for ingredients.
Yes. The only control is on whether or not you can find the exotic supplies needed, and that's a percentile roll. 75% chance in cities, 25% chance in towns, both with only a 7-day cooldown. So, short version, as long as you know the spell being cast by the item, you just need some woodworking tools, 200 gold, and 10 days, you got yourself a wand of magic missile or an enspelled staff. Do you have any buddies that are carpenters? Guess what? Cut that time in half. Anyway, I mean, at this point, it was less important to me, but the fact is that these items can bypass the one spell slot per turn thing because they use charges and not spell slots. Thief Rogues can use magic items as a bonus action, don't think about it. That said, I feel like it's just a bigger deal overall. And look, you could always and will always ignore shit in the DMG. I'm not forcing people to do this at their tables, I'm just saying this is the base assumption of the stock book. Probably. 200 gold is not a lot, and 10 days during downtime, or if you just travel a little slower, is not a lot either. I think most parties by level 3 are going to be showing up with all 3 of their attunement slots filled with uncommon items. And just in the case of enspelled items, that's an item that has 6 charges of the spell and regains 1d6 every day. Do I pass negative judgment on this? No, I'm actually very neutral. I'm having a hard time making the end of this interesting, because that alone, it's funny. I think it's great. Good. However, whatever makes you happy. Seems like they beefed up monsters and encounters a bit, so I don't know. Maybe it's balanced. I'm here. Like, Patreon, subscribe. There are more 5e videos on their way, but before then, there will be a Cold Road video, which is the next video coming out. Search for it a ton. It's going to search for it so much, then the algorithm won't bury it. I'm also looking at Pathfinder 2e, so if they're, favorite spells that you want me to take a look at, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching this video, brought to you by a paid sponsorship for Hit Point Press's Massive Tarrasque Sale. And by massive, I mean the miniatures. 20% off on the last of their massive Tarrasques, never to be reprinted. But there's also a ton of miniatures on sale over there, including Ecto-Minis, which are 30% off. So to round out that collection, follow the link in the description. Brought to you by paid sponsorship for the Field Guide to Floral Dragons Kickstarter. Happy Gabriella-thon! This week we're gonna have some fun to celebrate one of our favorite characters, Gabriella. Franz, Crow, and I will all do separate, super short, epic Gabriella shots. Basically, I'm giving them carte blanche to animate whatever they want for 2 days, and they're incredible animators, followed by over 10 minutes of Gabriella, a bunch of which has been Patreon only for almost 4 years. And that all culminates in my favorite Gabriella episode to date. So strap in for some epic shots, some vintage episodes, and a whole lot of Gabriella gobgags.
Gabriella finds Kitty! Can we keep?
No way.
What? Gabriella just shouted.
Wait, that cat talks? Put it down. Just put it down.
You're the Prince of Power!
We're keeping the cat.
Yes.
Shouldn't we go help?
Dennis, if you interrupt this, I will kill you myself. We've been saving up animation budget for this, and I won't let you distract me, even for a
And it's
second.
over.
Mimic fought well, but I have something Mimic does not. The power of
Say it.
Don't say it.
friendship.
So cliche.
It's true, though.
We didn't do anything.
It's 50,000.
You think it's a good deal?
I mean,
Alright, I'm gonna try to do one
Sorry
more
about the
dungeon.
echo. There's something wrong with this batch of sending scrolls. It's just bouncing all around my inner sanctum.
Oh, I
This
do want
week
to do
we
it too.
reviewed
Okay.
the Order of Magus and Protector's new
Boosted carpet. Full disclosure, the
I can't even buy that one
carpet
till.
sent over free of charge for this review, and
I
they
don't
came
know.
along
It
with
seemed
my
like
new
cost
friend
gold.
here, Gabriella Gobgax. Say hi, Gabriella.
Hi, Gabriella.
It comes in 4 variations.
What are you doing?
Today we're going to test out the 1 to 20, their flagship model. It says in the specs that it goes a whopping 80 feet a turn, but we're going to find out for ourselves.
I believe in
It has a
Heroic, I get
200-pound
gold per
capacity,
boss.
and you can speak the
Not
carpet's
gold.
command as an action to
whatever
make
it
it
is.
hover and fly. This carpet's command word is
Yeah, that's great.
spellbook.
So, okay, so
Okay,
it should
here's our
cost
starting
gold.
line. I'm using prestidigitation. This is not permanent. This is not vandalism. Okay, 3, 2, 1, spellbook.
Am I doing it? Hey, Twink! What is the issue? It's a blasting powder? Okay.
Got the best deals anywhere.
Broke my ball.
Okay,
I had a lot of fun today. They definitely go as fast as the specs say. I can tell you that for sure. Gabriella, what's your review?
Likes, but not loves.
All right,
that
overall,
how
I think
that
I'd
is?
agree. I'd grade own these carpets a late-level
Yeah.
luxury item. It's a little
Wow,
pricey if
really?
you have to pay a full price. I'd go for an airship first if you don't have one. That said, the craftsmanship is astonishing. The stitchwork alone would make it a welcome addition to any wizard's inner sanctum.
Cha-ching!
you're that much? Wow. You're
Hi there.
fucking
Welcome to
old,
the Animated
guys.
Spellbook. I've been doing a lot more experimental
Jesus
stuff
Christ,
lately, but every now and then
whatever.
I think it's fun to just do a
Piece of
nice
shit.
spell. This was mentioned in a previous episode, but not covered in enough detail.
Jesus
Let's
Christ.
talk invisibility. A creature you touch becomes
I
invisible
need to be farming
until
wool
the
cloth,
spell ends.
apparently.
Anything the target is wearing or carrying is invisible as long as it's on the target's person. I would rule that means that if they pick something up, it also becomes invisible. The spell ends for a target if it casts a spell or
All the suckers like me.
Why?
Was
What are you
it
chasing?
how Gabriella
I
is?
can
Chasing each other?
see that. Just not yet. You can also use higher level slots to cast it on more creatures simultaneously, like so. Like so.
Oh. But what invisibility?
I'm glad you
mean?
asked that question. A lot of text for invisibility is actually being hidden.
How
elsewhere
much
in
time?
the PHP.
8 minutes?
In
Holy
fact, in
shit.
Book 291, the often
Man, it's
pages on
early.
status effects, you'll find an entry out
I
of
would like to.
invisibility as a status.
So much
A
more to
creature
farm.
becomes impossible to see without the aid of magic or special senses.
Shit. That's-
Its location can be detected by
that
any
wasn't
noise it makes or
supposed to be what
tracks it
happens.
leaves. And attack rolls against the creature
Fuck.
are at disadvantage.
Oh,
and
oh
the
no,
creature's
it's the
attack rolls
fucking
are at
dragon
advantage.
one.
Gabriella hides, assists, dodges.
Oh, I hope it's yeah, is it? It's not, right? I don't think
Okay,
it
fair
is.
enough, but it's
good.
not the only place that they hid info on invisibility. And if you listen to me, you can detect this location. The Unseen Attackers section on
I'm
page
starting to fall asleep.
194 states that in addition to attacks having disadvantage on invisible or unseen enemies, if you don't target the right location, you automatically miss. So,
Yeah, very good
you
cat.
can jump on the enemy, escape, or avoid damage if you're a bit squishy. Also, spells require casters to see the target, and those that don't require usually at least require that you cast the spell in the right area. So it's a good way to avoid those sorts of spells too. Finally, there's greater invisibility, which actually lasts less time and costs a higher level spell slot as a level 4 spell, but you can attend spells without losing invisibility, like so.
I don't know what that means right now. Too tired.
I dropped the
Too
potion.
much?
When
You feel
are,
too much.
I don't know. What could we possibly
Okay.
be waiting on?
See? She's still invisible.
Extra firepower.
Gabriella's gone. It's not permanent, but she went. But this is the whole place again. It's not the season. It's not like, I mean, you know, it's not TV, it's season. So, ta-da. It's the finale. To cast teleportation circle, you need to take this fancy gem chalk and draw a 10-foot diameter circle on the ground and inscribe it with sigils that lead your location to a permanent teleportation circle somewhere else on the same plane of existence as you. A shimmering portal opens. A shimmering portal opens within the circle and remains open until the end of your next turn.
That's scary.
Any creature that enters the portal instantly clears out the destination circle once this time. Making a permanent destination circle is no easy task. It takes a year of reinscribing the same circle every day. Too much effort. Luckily, important places often have permanent destinations.
Oh, is this the boss?
When you first get the ability to cast this spell, you'll get sigil sequences
Nice,
corresponding to permanent circles on each plane.
Nice, 100 something. 1,000. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, what are you doing?
Substantial argument. Blanket, 10 by 10 wooden structure. And by law, most people would say, no, none of those things are right. Guess what? It looks like we
I'll just have it.
PM today. These are the signals for the deck of the Lion's Heart airship. And you know what that means? It's time for vacation. Thanks for watching. You've been searching through the PMC, looking at the charts. You can't for the life of you figure out how to spell your cleric knows. Welcome to this episode of the Animated Spellbook. There it is. Get me on the written by good and marvelous book. This isn't.
This book, utilitarian book. Good book, no fun.
Fair enough. Bring me my utilitarian Raven pen. Since this is my first video really talking about clerics, it's also worth mentioning clerics are very good. Here's my thing about clerics. Nobody wanted to play them, so they got buffed. And then that happened over and over and over again. And now, if built correctly, a cleric can be ridiculously good at things you wouldn't expect. Whether that's melee or even espionage, they aren't the support casters you think. Though they are defined by their healing abilities, they're capable of devastating damage output and can take a pummeling. Not to mention, they know all of their spells.
Everyone know their spells.
No. They know all of the spells on the cleric spell list. The bottleneck is just at the prep level. After a long rest, you can prep a number of spells from the complete cleric spell list equal to your wisdom mod plus your level. You also get all of your domain spells prepped for free. In addition to all of that, you even have channel divinity powers, which have their own rules, and we're not going to cover that here except to say powers. Clerics, druids, and paladins all have this spell list thing in common. They have their entire spell list available for prep. I know to some of you this is super obvious, but to others, like me for instance, the problem I ran into, and I've wasted hours trying to figure out how many spells I have to learn.
It must be the heavy blasting powder and the iron bar. Yes, I don't know. I think he's gonna fucking die. Yeah, goddamn, he's getting fucked up.
What's a good?
I don't know, should we heal him or something? Damn, dude.
Kill big bad Gugnog. Goblins good again.
Okay, oh, we don't have all day. Kill the goblin. We gotta see inside this game.
It speaks common.
I don't care if it speaks Nepalese. We have to go.
Listen, she's so.
Put that in Raz.
The entire tribe has totally emerged.
Under duress. Yes, she can help us.
No, don't die, Raz.
Nothing. She's gonna
Is it impossible for him to die here?
Turn over new leaf. Show you Gugnog. Help you help goblins. Win.
It's a win-win.
Maybe they reset 8.
Please,
That must be it.
okay, Paul. There's at least 22.
Are you gonna make a point
point, or are you just gonna keep listing numbers?
What was this goblin's name?
Gabriella don't know it.
Fine. Then him.
Grubrat.
And did you and Grubrat get along?
Gabriella hates
We probably just killed everyone she's ever known. All of her friends. Probably her husband. Probably her kids.
Thanks for watching this video brought to you by Field Guide to Floral Dragons.
Oh my god.
Guide to the mysterious world
Where the fuck did you come from?
and elusive creatures.
Alright, this was
Making an ultimate with rich lore.
Ooh.
I thought that it might be fun to do a little bit of a longer form story. So this week is going to be a campaign diary of a new set of characters who I think are probably about to wipe. If you have any handy tips on how that's not going to happen, that would be great. And if you just came here for animation, there is some art in this episode, but
You will suffer for this interruption.
I'll be animating.
A rickety carriage grinds up the corridor. Its occupants try and set down some wild man bell that seeds cursing shifty. It was his fault when he made a personal
Oh, she's involving these guys.
Wicked stone
shit. Okay.
a terrifying artifact whose value is only outstripped by its potential to destabilize the entirety of Phasor. William and the Dragonborn had managed to capture him and set him up so he could go that way. He was a slippery turns towards some ambushes his enemies. In a one particularly brutal escape, he cut off all their legs. Restoration is not cheap. In the past 6 months chasing it, they've been
I guess the play is just to keep telling her because that's what the focus is.
lost more than 3
On her provide disappearing as dead. Another hero.
his invisible dagger, and more horses than they can count. The Horde, not to mention their 2 companions, Zero.
Jesus Christ, is she taking reduced damage?
Dragonborn left on the team. Every night they collectively traded hateful tales of the defeat, and every day they traveled farther and farther north. They spent most of their remaining gold on an expert driver and carriage. That's when they came.
Hey, we did. Okay, cool.
Your workout. Wick's mount, frozen.
Warlock
to the ground.
Soulstone came in
They
clutch.
told
I
their
should have
driver
just
to
kept
stop the
focusing
car.
her. I
So
was
William
thinking
took
that.
point and jumped out of the carriage. He checked. Wick wasn't there, but he'd left his saddlebags, obviously in a hurry. His tracks were
I
already
was
fading.
thinking.
Willem opened up the bags and heard a
Really
spotted
weak.
a trap wire.
Oh God!
The goat exploded like some kind of grotesque fragmentation grenade. The cart was hit with a wave of frozen gristle, and when it bounced back to level, Wade popped his head out of the window.
Find anything good?
He made a perception check.
Let's just
18.
continue,
He saw a
please.
tiny
We're almost
speck of gray
done.
against the
I
white
don't want to get
snow.
into drama.
Wick had a good 5-hour head start, but they had a
I
cart.
need to make a
The driver
comment.
knew the area pretty well and pointed out that Wick was about to hit Horseshoe Canyon. Its center was a town, but that was a good 10 hours on foot. They'd catch Wick in 3. And so they took off. The horses warded against the cold, the wheels mending themselves, and the driver in a state somewhere between fury and bliss. After 2 hours, they caught up with Wick, shuffling towards the edge of the canyon. Wade climbed to the roof of the cart and took out his bow. He was going to wing a little rat in the leg.
Yeah, let's make sure this all falls apart right now.
Nearby This presented a dilemma. They could let the wolf have the meal, and this would all be over. They probably wouldn't be able to recover the artifact, but they would be dead. Or they could save Wick. John Edwards running back the cart, his scales bristling in the conjured up the dragon silently slinking over the side of the canyon. The winter wolves were terrified and started
Well,
dispersing.
fuck me.
Just then, there was a rumbling noise coming from down below.
Wade looked over as Wick spread his arms wide and started tilting over the edge. Kenku cannot
think that
fly,
was my
but
fault.
Wick seems to have found a weakness. Using the Inventor's Workshop from earlier, and they filled with an upgrade. Wick closed his
I don't
eyes.
think it was why. This is thanks man. Let's pull them
Monstrosity scrambled off its cart, screaming out strikes of thunder and lightning that split the ground. Sweet William leaned out the window, looked back at the enormous reptilian thing, and then forward.
Are you
To see
kidding
Wick
me?
and
Oh my
Kenku
god, do
gliding
we have
towards
3
the
bosses?
quaint
I
hunter's
thought we were
village
done.
of Horseshoe
I forgot
Town.
about that guy.
William knocked an arrow, aimed low to catch the dress, and in a moment of pure need, narrowed his perception to a single point, the base of Wick's foot. Then, the wrist. Nat 20, sneak attack, none. The arrow threaded up Wick's leg, and it split open like a watermelon, tendons whipping like tassels in the wind. Wick went limp. Choosing non-lethal just
35%
means
threat,
they don't
that's
have to
okay, I
stabilize
guess.
to live. It doesn't mean they stay conscious. He
Rest
wanted
is
Wick to
back,
live,
cool.
50-50 chance of Wick surviving in one piece. 65. He hit the
Really
other side of the canyon, slid down, and settled 50 feet down on a small outcropping of ice.
But he's back
Thank
to being
God,
strong
I
again.
guess. I don't know. Dave took a second look at the terror that was chasing them and remembered. Something any bronze dragonborn might, a children's tale of the monsters which giants wrought and dragons killed. This was a proto-Behir, and not just any Behir. Gragnall the Strain, one of the oldest and most flawed. Hit it behind the knees, Dave yelled. Wade was immediately on it. He waited for an opening, and the Behir obliged. Just a flash, showing the juicy soft spot at the back of its bloated little leg. He fired and hit. The whole animal shuddered in pain and started gliding back, and slid back down the chasm. The team was safe, but they had to make it to Horseshoe Village before the little bastard got away again, and it was a nerve-wracking 3-hour drive. They finally got there.
Okay, I think the Quicksilver
They
here
were all terrified that
attaches to the
Kenku
very
just wouldn't be there when they
Very
arrived.
call for it.
And they were only halfway. The team
12 years
eventually
ago.
moved to the hunting village. The smell of oil furs and sour meat hung over the place. It was more of a camp than a
13
town, with a
years-
few
how
sheds,
long
but
ago was
the
that?
only permanent structure was a massive
2010.
cylindrical
Ooh,
longhouse tavern.
15 years?
After parking the cart, the driver hopped out and started walking
Portal.
towards the tavern. Willem cut him off. Jim, good job out
Oh, yeah.
there. While you're in the tavern, can you pick up some food and some supplies for us? Willem put 5 gold into Jim's hand. What? No, supplies. Food. Potions. You realize I'm a driver, right? Not like a servant.
What happened to the teammates?
Wade slid into the conversation
No,
and palmed him a couple extra coins.
Jim.
I can't read that. When partial moves into the
I'll
stream.
do my best. The team started asking around.
really moves.
Rick must have gotten into town by now, but nobody.
I can't read that right now. It's asking me way too much.
He directed them to the south of town and invited Dave to join him later to talk over matters of spirit. Dave, believing Father Grum had access to some kind of divine insight, was more than happy
Do I
to
not
provide,
strike
but
when he
finding
has
him
his
was
Quicksilver
more
armor on? Is
impressive.
that the
After searching the
implication?
whole of Horseshoe Town, they eventually found his
They're
profession.
saying strike
And as
now.
Rick took in ragged, shallow breaths, Dave rigged up some pythons and ropes in his pack. When he lowered down, Rick looked up at him and extended a small hand. Yeah, I'm here to save you, but you've got a lot to answer for. Get up there. They dragged Rick up to the town, plopped him on the ground. As it happened so many times before, it became clear that Rick had stowed the spearhead somewhere. Rick pointed everywhere. Wade grabbed it and looked inside. There was
Should I be striking all of them in? I don't understand.
a set of 4 cigars, each with a different colored band.
Oh my god, what the
Black
heck?
band cigar. Wade, knowing not to trust Wig with anything from the pack, inspected the cigars more closely. Each cigar had language on it and words within it, which suggested particular speech. The black band was clearly some kind of feeling cigar. The yellow conjuration, green conjuration, and the blue, he couldn't tell. No. Wade pocketed the cigars. It's not time to celebrate yet. Dave slapped Wick and yelled, "Where's the spear?" Before Wick had time to answer, punched him again. Wick went limp. They took the opportunity to tie the Kenku up. Then Dave pulled out a dulcimer and started dealing out a rendition of the Jackson of the hadn't heard much speech for a while, he started with what he needed. The spear! Yeah, I'm here to save you, but the spear!
What the
Get up
fuck
there.
was
A little baffled,
that?
the team took a second to take that in.
Then they realized that they had to start feeding him vocabulary to get the info they needed. As they started shouting out random bits and bobs, Willem started going through Wick's additional bags. He found 2 gold bars and a heart-shaped locket.
Literally didn't
Hungry
even
for a
know
little
I
more
had
info on the
debuff
little
on.
bastard, Willem popped the locket open. There was a clap and a burst of thick smoke. Con saves all around. Openly rolled, Wick aced his. But
Oh
of
my
course,
god,
Wade, Dave, and
this is
Willem
asking
got
so
knocked out.
much.
They woke up 2 hours later, cold and
Oh my god.
His
I
hobbled
have-
tracks led
oh,
back to the outcropping
don't
he'd
clue.
been unconscious on. They got ready to climb down on their pythons from before, but double-checked them. Wick had loosened them in case he was followed. Finally, they knocked the pythons back in deeper and climbed down to inspect it. He had hit the spear in the
Literally,
skull down
I
there.
sold
There was a little
Stoneback
wedge where
died to
he'd
bring
taken
back
it
to
out.
life. I swear to God.
So
he
the
does
search
not.
for
What are we
Wick
doing?
began
What are we
again.
doing?
After much tent searching, Wade pretended to look for his grandma, and Dave, of course, thick as a brick, just kept yelling, Wick! They gave up and went into the tavern, where Jim greeted them with 2 capes made out of rats, 3 vials of 1d4 healing potions, and 4 gold's worth of limes. That's a lot of limes. They eventually found someone who had seen the Kenku talking to one of the frost goblins who lived in a cave nearby. They also learned from the local law enforcement it was basically open season on the goblins, and the local poison maker would buy their salivary glands, prized for their ability to make wraith
Fucking
oil, the
zoomed
plague
in.
oil used against incorporeal creatures. They had learned the frost goblins had a soft spot in the back of their head, which is essentially like an off
Shut the
switch.
fuck
Think
up.
a Seagal movie, basically. They also knew the frost goblins had apparently been getting smarter, obsessing over some kind of dig, coming into town to sell strange, often cursed items, and now not coming into town at all and being extremely aggressive to the residents.
The team waited on the edge of town, looking down on another ledge that led from the cliffside into the goblin's cave, waiting for an opening in between
I
guards.
told you.
When he left, they started moving into the caves, in search of Wick. Unfortunately, Dragonborn don't have night vision, and each Dragonborn had a different solution to this problem. Wade's in shadows while he did as his name suggests, which was essentially groped around in the dark, keeping his lantern hooded at almost all times. Whereas Dave, well, he just popped out his lantern and happily roamed the house, which of course eventually backfired. 3 goblins sat in a circle rolling strange dice. Each time they hit the ground, the dice would flash with bright searing light. The goblins cheered and tallied up scores. While one of them was mid-toss, a different one shut down the hall, and they heard as Dave's lantern clanged against the wall. They jumped to their feet, one started screaming for help, and Dave ran forward, opened his maw, and let loose a crack of lightning, which killed the other 2 instantly. The third ran full tilt down the hall and managed to bypass both Wade and Willem. They fired off a few shots, but they missed. Wade accidentally used his Twink arrow and teleported
Already
the
cast
goblin's
that.
cooking fire. The goblin next to him, a different one than the screamer, stabbed him and then also stumbled into the fire. In agony, Wade took this opportunity to grab the poor little guy by his feet and swing him into the cave wall. The goblin hit the wall with a crunch and then sizzled as his limp body hit the floor. The team went running after the alarmed goblin, but he got away, and so they decided, you know what, stealth screwed up, we're going to set up an ambush. But what they didn't realize is they hadn't finished clearing out the first fork of the cavern. When the goblins finally came,
shut the fuck
they
up.
did so in force. A warlock frost goblin at the head of a flank of 5 goblins with javelins. Then from behind their ambush, another 4 goblins from the fork that was not cleared out earlier. And they came with their own javelins. The team was stuck. All 3 of them got porcupined in the first round, and then as the goblins went to retrieve their javelins, Sweet Willem killed the warlock, clearly their leader.
Wade spun around, opened up his lantern, and temporarily blinded the other 4 as they lost their volley.
And finally, Dave created an illusion of the dwarf in the hopes of soaking up some of the damage, but it wasn't enough. 3 rounds later, all of their healing potions, Wade had 3 HP. Frost goblins were all retreating back to their javelin piles to get another volley. And from the darkness they heard, "We've got a lot to answer for." You cannot. You are useless. And that's where we left the session. This is my current campaign. If you have any suggestions on how the hell the players are going to survive, tell me, because I'm pretty sure I can only think of about 5 ways that don't involve me cheesing rolls. Alright, so since this is a little bit longer form, I can speak without reading off of the script, which is why that I have a different. But I wanted to be very honest. I just want wanted to say thank you. I know I'm not winning an Oscar or anything, but I get to tell my goofy stories for a living, and it's been a blast. And just thank you so much for all this thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys next week when I'll be animated as usual. See you in the next episode, or tone, or sword. There are going to be some links in the description, more info about the campaign and the players who run some of their own D&D stuff. They were surrounded. Dave, their only healer, was down, Wade had 3 HP, and Sweet
That's
William
fair.
went back. Frost goblins in formation, readying another volley of spears. He looked at Wade's bandolier. The cigars they'd stolen from Shifty Wick were still there. The cigars had magic properties. They were each labeled by color. They didn't know what they did, but they knew that black was for life magic. William lit the cigar and started sliding towards Dave. Welcome to this episode of the Animated Spellbook, brought to you by Elderwood Academy. Healing Word. Healing Word is a pretty basic healing spell afforded to clerics, druids, and bards. With a range of 60 feet, the caster can use a bonus action to speak their healing word, and heal an ally for 1d4 plus their spell modifier. William let loose a plume of thick black smoke. Dave's nostrils filled. His body started to rattle and then float. His lungs heaved as they filled with the smoke. William hit the ground, 0 HP. Dave was up. Their HP pool switched.
Oh, that's what that is.
Dave lit and threw an oil flask. The oil ignited and blocked off a side passage. He ran past it. The frost goblins hissed the bright light. They'd be at disadvantage. There might be 10 frost goblins in the cave, but there are only 2 between Dave and freedom. He ran forward like a bulldozer. Wade jumped to Sweet William, threw him over a shoulder, and then started to run. It was the goblins' turn. He could hear Wick barking orders in Primordial. The 5 goblins behind them let loose a volley. Wade fell 3
Well, there's
down,
a universal
but didn't
agreement
feel
on
the
that.
tip of his speed.
That's
He
fine.
also heard the clattering of spears down the flaming side hallway. They were readying attacks for when he went by. Up ahead, Dave was face to face with 2 goblins. They both took wild jabs, pathetic attempts. He brought his mace down and crushed one of their skulls. The second barely ducked out of the way. William went
Where's the
still.
other one?
He was dead. Wade took one last look at his friend
Good night, sweet William.
and slid him across the ice. Sweet William was perforated by 2 spears, then gently drifted into the flames. Just as Wade's and Shadows sprinted past, Sweet
This kind of person doesn't
oil
know why
flasks
people don't like
ignited
him.
with a roar. The remaining
Or he's
goblins
just
between
more like
Dave and
completely
Freedom
oblivious to
disengaged
people
and
not
made a
liking
run
him.
for it. When Dave and Wade caught up to the little bastard, he looked up at them pleadingly, then looked at their still suspended ropes as if to say, "I'm leaving, and so should you." And with that, Dave and Wade
Wait,
climbed
what?
up without their selfless rogue. Oh, did you think?
Oh,
that
'cause
this
it makes
encounter would have
2
healing word in
each
it? So did
time.
I, but Dave forgot he had enough
Oh
spell
my
slots.
God.
He was a player, but by
Okay.
the time we figured out the flub, William
That's
was very,
that.
very dead. Anyways,
Explosive
Thanks for
sheep.
watching this animated spellbook brought to you by Elderwood Academy.
whether it's the hex chest or the spellbook, they're making beautifully crafted containers for your dice, cards, and other gaming supplies. Link in the description.
What is it? Heavy dynamite? Solid
Hi,
dynamite.
this is part 3 of a campaign diary. If you haven't seen the other 2 episodes, check out the playlist on my YouTube
Okay, that's
homepage or in the description. And here we
Fucking
go.
getting
The
ripped
team
off.
returned to the Horseshoe Village after having narrowly escaped with their lives.
Hey, you guys look like shit. Well, let me introduce you to my new friend, Lieutenant Vincent Skittles.
Hey, getting the legs.
And Lieutenant Vincent Skittles, let me introduce you to my employers. This is Wade.
It's just
from
crazy
Shadows.
because it's wool to me.
This is
That's what's
Dave.
crazy about to me.
And, hey, Clear Run, get my boys a drink. They clearly got their asses handed them by that crow. 4-3, the runt's always a little behind. He will be here in a second. Wade shook his head at Jim,
We need more
and
than
glassy-eyed started limping over to the bar.
He saw something. Orcs. And not just any orcs. The Ulrith Nar. Now, to understand how this affected him, you need to know that today wasn't the first time Wade's had lost a friend in battle. Life for a Dragonborn can be difficult. They're often born of
Fuck.
different
Okay.
species,
Oh well.
and in many cases shunned by their own families and communities. So, they often have to form their own family ties. Wades and Shadows took his first family in the form of a unit in the Damaran military. His first real loss was against the Ulrith Nar. He was the sole survivor of that clash, and ever since, every chance he got to cull the herd, he took. Unfortunately, he was too hurt to do anything tonight. He was intrigued, though, by their drinking companion, a silver
Super.
dragonborn, trading stories in Orcish with the
Alright, I need to make
Quintus Flavius
Point.
Aurelius was wearing the signature armor of Zento King.
Oh, so I
All
need
the marks
10.
of rank had been
So I need
torn
20.
off, and he
20.
knew the look of a soldier.
Solid
Like
stone.
that coin purse for
More
ya?
importantly, he knew the look of a crew in need of a mercenary.
Jeez.
And
Oh,
so
wait,
that
that's
night,
wrong. Okay.
the drinks were on Quintus. Wade's,
Still,
Quintus, Skittles,
jeez.
Jim, Clear Run the Barkeep, and even
Okay.
the Olithnar drank to the memory of
I
Sweet
don't know,
William
dude.
and others lost. They
Fucking
gambled, laughed, played
silk.
music. Of course, they
20
fought.
of them.
And to
Jesus
their
Christ.
amazement, they also learned that the rumors about the unmasked lord's daughter had reached all the way up the cold road
Salt
to
dynamite.
Horseshoe Village.
That's all I need for
The
that.
following morning, strolled randomly
Okay.
through the tavern. The team woke up to the smell of yak titlan, a traditional Waterdavian breakfast made by the barkeep who'd come up a bit dusty, but thought
Almost go to
after the
bed.
crew had a night like that.
Almost
it
can
might
go
be
to bed, so that
Wade's
seems
drunkenly
like
lurched into
something.
action, ready to kill one of the Olrithnar now that he was a little rested up, but they were already gone to their tents. Quintus, however,
Face
was sitting,
there.
legs
Air
crossed,
bug.
the very picture of
Bug
crisp
thing.
composure.
When do you want to head out?
Huh?
Well,
Solid,
now that I know
solid
you're
blasting
employed.
powder.
We hired you.
Yes, sir.
What's your relationship to the Orithnar?
Friendly.
And if it came to it, whose side would you be on?
You hired me. So yours. Speaking of hiring, you also hired him.
Quintus nudged Skittles with a foot. Then
I can
they
already-
ate their greasy meal
Yeah,
and shook
I
off
only
their
need my-
hangovers before heading to the Frost Goblin Cave. The same cave that they'd lost a friend in yesterday, the same cave that housed their target and sworn enemy Shifty Wick. A small, almost weirdly localized storm covered their entry, and so Skittles shot 2 bolts at the little bastard guarding the entrance, and they landed. They moved into the second chamber and tried to repeat this move on 2 goblins. Dave started the ambush with a powerful miss, and Waits fired his crossbow. It also missed, cracking ice in one of the walls. Skittles accidentally shot Dave in the leg, and finally Quintus dove
Oh, wait,
into
no, it's-
action and beheaded the goblin with a single
Well.
swipe. But it was too late. The goblin
Against
screamed
me,
out a
it's
warning before being cleaved by one of Dave's throwing axes. They heard the warning repeated down the tunnel. Then strange words started shouting. Weird.
I don't know if I picked the right one. I
incompatible
don't know.
goblin
What's a good one
tones.
to pick for this shit?
Dave rolled to retrieve his hand axe with a sickening squelch and waited for the incoming horde. And waited.
Hope I can switch back later on.
And a few minutes passed.
Little,
The team
little
eventually
cost
came to the
effort.
conclusion that an ambush was surely waiting down the hall. After last time, they had no intention of being lured into a trap again. And so, they fed the campfire and waited for a few hours. Waves eventually pulled the arrow from the cracked wall. There was a centuries-old frozen humanoid figure.
I guess
in
I
the
could look
cloudy
into
ice
this a little
behind
more.
it.
Oh, well.
Waits took a look at one of the Frost Goblin corpses. This was a kind of dig site. The goblins had been excavating something, and so each goblin had a crooked little pickaxe on its belt. Waits grabbed the goblin's pickaxe.
That's pretty
It was
cool.
barely
Oh, wait.
bigger than a rock
No much
but
engineering?
he,
Come on.
Quintus, and Dave started taking turns unearthing this weird frozen figure. Using their torch to soften the ice, they would then use their
They're not the
comically
ones
small
that make
goblin
that one
pickaxe
thing.
to chip it away. Hours later, while everyone else was resting, and just as the orange tinge of sunset flooded the cave entrance, Wade's finally broke
Jesus
through,
Christ.
pulling back a chunk of ice, which made a kind of window to her head
Oh,
and upper
shit.
torso.
I have no idea.
The frozen figure beneath had her hands clasped over her sternum, and a small obsidian necklace depicting an aboleth twisting in a jagged spiral. Wade's, an old-school loot-and-shoot rogue, pried the frozen figures off to reveal a blade. He secreted away the blade before anyone could see, and as he did, he heard something in primordial resonate through his bones.
Flees not ilem. Ries not taristum.
A little rattled, he looked back to his companion.
She's some kind of priestess.
They gathered around the hole to marvel at this ancient priestess unearthed after centuries. Who was she? Who did she worship? Were her eyes open before? No! A dead frost goblin suddenly attacked. Dave screeched with fear and
What's
horror
going on,
as
guys?
The frost goblin savaged one of Dave's arms. His slack jaw clamped down and tore away a mouthful of scales and tendons. He team
Did I
jumped
learn
into
that?
action. They looked around and saw one undead frost goblin tearing at Dave, another shambling towards them, the frozen priestess sluggishly
I don't know what
flying
the
and
max
snapping
is.
at Wades, and then they saw on the ground the headless goblin started to convulse, and his chest snapped open like a bear trap, organs spiraling out, hemorrhaging a glowing purple substance.
Surely
Quintus beheaded Dave's attacker before he got a chance to choose. Skittles fired a crit success into the other shambler, and Dave finished the job with his mace. Wades took one
Like
look at
what?
the priestess and put her out of her misery. As they were catching their breath, they saw a kind of vital essence pulling itself from the headless goblin, a glowing form,
Cool.
a wraith. And as it wove itself out of the goblin's body, the team took a look at the zombies they dispatched, who were also starting to writhe. Their sternum snapped open, and their organs began to boil out of their bodies. Could they survive? One wraith? Maybe.